about the aftermath of the End-SARS protest and the freezing of the account of some people linked to the protest. Pastor Tunde Bakare today bared his mind on the approach of the federal government. Take a listen to Pastor Tunde Bakare on that.
Some of the actions recently taken by the government on the heels of the End-SARS protest may need to be reversed sooner rather than later in our collective best interest so that they do not trigger further protests. Among such policy actions is the freezing of the accounts of young Nigerians who reportedly sponsored the protests. While I admit that under our extant laws, banks may freeze an account upon an ex parte order granted to a law enforcement agency by a court of competent jurisdiction for the purpose of investigation, these provisions of our law should not be used to intimidate Nigerian youths simply because they engage in and promoted protests against the inactions of government.
Well, there are several stories on the Nigerian military, the national security issue, the budget of the military, the efforts in the Northeast, and several other issues. So tonight, we're bringing on the table the matter of the Nigerian Army and the national security. We shall be speaking with the chairman of the Army Committee in the Senate, Senator Ali Ndume. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Thank you so much, Senator, for coming tonight on the program. Senator, you are a representative of the people. Let me get your quick reactions to some of these stories. First, on the comment made by Pastor Tunde Bakare.
Well, actually, I really didn't want to be involved in these issues that relate to SARS because there is no clear involvement or clear picture of what actually went wrong. But as he clearly said, he made a statement clearly that yes, the government can, secure the powers of freezing an account for the purpose of investigation. But we know that clearly the End-SARS protest started peacefully, and then it was hijacked and it got out of hand. And I think it's very important for the government to also separate the two. That is to go after the criminals and then also engage the End-SARS protesters, as we said, so that we'll find a solution to especially the 5-point complaints that they raise. It's a very delicate situation that should be managed properly so that we don't trample on the rights of the protesters, as Pastor said, but at the same time, again, we don't leave the victims without any hope of getting justice. So the government is in a very difficult situation, and I suggest that people like Pastor Bakare and other well-meaning Nigerians, their advice as to how to handle this situation is very important so that, as he rightly said, it doesn't frustrate or it leads to another protest because of the way it's being handled. So I think that is all I can say is that people, should be involved, great people should be involved in managing the situation.
As the chairman of the Senate Committee on the Army, we were talking about the role of the Army that night or 20th of October. You heard when the Brigadier General was making his presentation there. I'm very sure that this matter will probably have been brought to your committee, the notice of your committee at the Senate at some point. Let's get your reaction to that.
As at now, actually, there is nothing before the committee in relation to the unfortunate incident that took place at Lekki after the protest. And, immediately that happened to the Senate, went suspended plenary. So maybe it will come up in the next sitting. But as I said, should such thing come up, and especially now there is argument here and there, I think there is the need to investigate what actually happened to get to the root of the matter of get to the truth of the matter. There is no argument between the army and the Lagos State government, coupled with the fact that we don't have specific figures as to at what happened, the number of life lost or those that. So we'll wait until we get the report. But we as a committee intend to ask the military to give us what actually happened, to tell us what actually happened. And then if there is any other opinion different from that, we'll get to the roots of the matter. Where that is all I can say for now until the matter comes before the committee or the Senate.
I mean, I'm very sure that this is also something that you have spoken about before now, about the engagement of the Nigerian Army. You said in the past that the Army has been engaged in 33 states over the issue of insecurity, and these are issues of internal security. Whether or not the military should be engaged in that encounter as being a matter of debate. Would you want to weigh in on that also? The involvement of the military and internal security on issue of civil civil engagement. What's your take on it?
Honestly, I don't think that the Nigerian Army should be involved in internal security. But you know the security challenges that we are facing in the country today that led to the drafting of military to out of their barrack to take care of security challenges in almost 33 states. And that is because the police is overstretched. They don't have the number, they don't have the equipment, the intelligence is not there, otherwise all these things would have been avoided. I have said this several times, that the Nigerian Army or armed forces in general, or even the security in this country, they are not on, the number is not enough, they are not well equipped, they are not well trained, and the population is growing. And with that, the number of the population is mostly that of youths. We have over 60 or 70% of the youths. Most of them are unemployed, so they get frustrated. And therefore, if there is no intelligence and a Marshall Plan, to control this situation, it can get out of hand. This NSAS protest, as you can see, just spread like wildfire. So it should be a lesson to us, the leaders in this country, to do something. I've said it several times that in a country like ours, if we cannot make it peaceful for everybody to live comfortably, then we, the leaders, will not be comfortable. And as I said, that we have majority of the youths that are unemployed from a very poor background, and finding it very difficult to make a living. If a son of nobody cannot become anybody, then I doubt so much if there will be peace in the country. It is very important to take care of this, and you can only do that when there is security. There will be no law and order if the country is not secured. And how do you secure the country? You have to have the number of the security personnel that is needed. You have to give them the equipment, the tools, and the training. But in this country, you can agree with me, Sheung, that we are lagging behind in that. In fact, if you look at it, compared to even other countries just around us that are not as big, they are not as strong, they are not as powerful as our country, there's law and order in every country. Security and welfare of the citizens should be the priority. In fact, is the main purpose of government. It's there in our constitution.
I'm coming because I know you are also passionate about how the military should be funded. There's just about 121 billion to defense. That means that's every arm of the military in Nigeria. We come to that in a moment. But before we get away from the issue of the agitation of the NSAS, I know you're politicians. A lot of your colleagues have expressed the fear that came out of the agitation against politicians or people in government or people in politics. From your own standpoint, any big lesson for Nigerian politicians as in the aftermath of the NSAS protest?
Yeah, there is. We are representative of the people. Instead of securing ourselves from them, I think we should be much, much closer to our electorates and the people that, that elected us. You have seen the aftermath of the NSAS when the hoodlums took over. We were the first target. We are the first, and that is because these people think that we have not done enough to protect their interests, and therefore they go after us. I think it's very, very important for politicians to be closer to the people they represent so that at least their grievances can be heard, and whatever you can do, you try to do it. There is a big lesson to learn from what has happened. It is a frustration that has built up over years. You know that since the government took over in 1999, so many graduates have been turned out into the labor market without employment or even opportunities. And worst of it, when they struggle, they get a barricade of frustration, especially this idea that is going around now that if you want to become somebody or even if you want to get a job, you have to know somebody. Several times the youth come to me from my constituency and all over the country to say that they have applied for a job in a particular organization, but they can't get the job because they need to get a note or a word chipped in by a senator or House of Rep. And that's not how it's supposed to be. There is supposed to be a clear procedure that will allow anybody that has the prerequisite qualification to be. You don't have to know somebody. You don't have to be son of somebody before you before you get employment. These are some of the things that are happening out there that is frustrating the youth. And then you have had some of them, they say they don't have any life to live. They've graduated 4 or 5 years ago. They can't get a job, and they want to do business or whatever small trade they are. They get frustrated by securities and all that. So there's a need to do more to handle this situation that can be very, very explosive.
But Senator, after 5 years of your party at the helm of affairs, your party promised change in 2000 before 2015 election. Are you happy with the situation of things now?
No, I can't say I'm happy truly, Sheung. We have done our best, but that is not enough. But the most frustrating aspect of it is that there are some gaps there that were not necessarily, here we are with the president that we have tried 3 times to get him elected. We didn't succeed. We tried the 4th time and we succeeded. And I know and I believe that truly the President Muhammad Buhari, is a genuine person that has the interests of a common man at heart. He has the integrity, and the competence. But unfortunately, when the government I've said it several times, some people come out in the government to insult me. The kleptocrats in the government are now forming the majority, or have formed the majority, and therefore betraying the laudable projects or policies that the president wants to implement. I can tell you that from the beginning, we came in with 3 main agenda. 1 is to secure the country, that is in security. 2 is to fight corruption. And 3 is to provide infrastructure. You cannot say that the president has not performed in these 3 areas. But the impact and then the implementation is the problem. And under normal circumstances, you don't expect the president to do that personally himself. He is supposed to get the able hands. And that is where the problem started. That is where we have the problem. I'll give you an example in the youths, a case of the youths. When we're campaigning, because we see this, number of youths, massive number of youths, and the president would always ask, what are we going to do with this? That was when the idea of N-Power came on board. And from the first year, he approved 500 billion. And the monies were released for graduates to be employed, especially in teaching and other areas and all that. But if you hear the number and the impact, they are just not, it doesn't add up. You hardly see it on ground, and that's where the problem is. For the past 5 years, the president have been supporting, and then he came up with trader money, he came up with the AMCOM Borrowers Project, he came up recently with the Youth Investment Program of 75 billion, and then another additional 25 billion was set aside to pay attention to the youth requirement that will enable them to take off. But those that are charged with the responsibility of implementing this laudable project, approved by president, are not doing their job. You could see even during the COVID-19 pandemic, when there was lockdown, the president and the business community and non-governmental agencies came in and then gave the support. But what happened? They went up and locked these things in warehouse, and various warehouses. And the people, went to ransack that place. All these things would have been avoided.
All right,
and,
Senator.
I can say that the president.
Yeah,
yes.
Because we need to go on break. But it does look like it's a language of failure that you are describing there. Is that the situation? In these 5 years, it hasn't been success for your party?
No, it can't be a language of failure. This government is sincere. They are up and doing, and those areas that we came about, we promised, are on ground. It's just that we didn't get the percentage that we require. Like if we say we wanted to take care of security, but
Senator,
still, you can't say the security situation in the country, especially in the Northeast, in 2015, where over 22 local governments was taken over by insurgents. But as it is now, you can't say there is a particular local government that is under the control of the insurgents. But we wanted to get those people back to their local government. That is the challenge. Most of the local government now, because people are scared, their properties have been destroyed. About $99.2 billion destruction have been inflicted on Borno alone. So getting people back on their feet is what the government is doing. And unfortunately,
Senator, let's take a breather just for a moment, because we're due for a break. I'll get your concluding moment when we come back from the break. But up next, there is an increase in price of fuel. We assess the state of the Nigerian economy under the Buhari administration. And when we come back, we get the concluding thoughts of Senator Ali Ndume. Don't go anywhere, everyone. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. Let's get our concluding moment with Senator Ali Ndume, chairman of the Army Committee in the Senate. Thank you so much, Senator. Let's wrap up quickly, because I'd like to ask you one question as regarding the budget for the Army, and which you've raised a question mark. But this is very important, Senator. With the trend of things we've seen lately and the aftermath of the NSAS protests, comment briefly and quickly, Senator, if you may, on the proposed social media bill and the plan to check some of the activities online.
Well, this is something that should be debated by the Nigerian public. Initially, I remember in the 8th Senate, a colleague of mine, and I was favorably disposed to that there's a need to control. There's anything in this world that has no control can be, can be disastrous. I'm not saying that the freedom of speech or expression should be muzzled, but then people should be held responsible for what they say or what they do, because in several cases, fake news, hate speeches, and all that is, and then even like some of these what do you call them, X movies and all that is on everywhere in Nigeria without control, so that you have children not accessing all sorts of information that that can destroy their future. I feel that there's nothing wrong with having a social media bill to define what you say or how you say it, and then what are the consequences of speaking out against somebody. Like as a politician, somebody like me, I had that bad experience before. People who come out and just because they want to run you down and say all sorts of things about you, which on the social media, and you have no way of controlling you, holding that person responsible. I think there is a gap on that. But it must go through the normal process. There must be public hearing. Hear out what is the opinion of the people and how it is. There's everything, there should be control in something. Even in the media, the news media channels, I hear sometimes people are being sanctioned or even for doing things that are not right. But at the same time, again, any society that has no freedom of expression or freedom of information also it's not going to be good for us, because it will lead to another thing. But don't forget that the Freedom of Information Bill, for example, was enacted by the Nigerian Senate. So any bill that comes in will be looked at critically, but there should be a law that, that guides or controls the social media. It's in every country there is law guiding all ways of life. So I don't have any problem with that. And I think I support the fact that there should be a kind of law that controls or guides the way you express yourself on social media. It's very important. But at the same time,
Senator,
I don't subscribe to the idea of muzzling people.
All right. So let's speak briefly also on, I see your agitation also. You are not quite happy with the budget for the defense, especially your own committee is bothered about the budget for the Nigerian Army. In the fight against insurgency, especially in the northeast region of the country, when you are asking that army is not properly funded, the question is, in what respect and what do you mean exactly about it? Considering the amount of money that have been spent over the past few years, there are several monies that have been budgeted outside the budget. There's some, the president asked for loans, which he asked for the National Assembly to approve. So when you say that there is not enough money budgeted, the question is, what exactly does Senator Ali Ndume mean?
What I'm saying exactly, saying thank you, and that is why I'm even here. This is very, very important. We are at war in this country, in the Northeast, and we are at war with criminals or bandits in the Northwest. We are also at war with with herdsmen that are attacking, and we have security challenges in the North Central as a result of tribal and religious conflicts that have overwhelmed the police, and the army needs to be drafted. And as you said, we don't even have the number. And when you don't have the number, and also you don't have the necessary equipment and arms to, carry out this responsibility, then it's as good as you don't have anything. In a country of over 200 million or thereabout, and with a budget of 13 trillion, and you are budgeting 27 billion, a paltry 27 billion for the Nigerian Army in a period of war, that does not show seriousness in any way. This 27 billion and the capital I'm talking about is supposed to be the money that they will use to buy ammunition, buy trucks, repair the fixed ones, buy kit the Nigerian Army, and do everything that is capital related. Yes, when you look at the figure, the Nigerian Army proposed, for example, for their personnel operations, they proposed 567 billion. And in the appropriation that is submitted before the National Assembly now, they proposed 461 billion. That means there's a shortfall of 106 billion. Remember, these are personnel costs. When you send people out in 33 states operating, you have to pay them their allowances, you have to pay them, you have to feed them, you have to buy fuel and all that. Those are operational costs. And their overhead is 21 billion. Hey, that one, yes, they now, in the system of their the so-called envelope, have approved or presented to the National Assembly 20 billion. But then, let me take you to what happened in 2020. The capital budget allocated to the Nigerian Army was 34 billion. But out of that, only half of it was released, or near half, or just slightly above that. Even their personnel cost, that is 20 billion, only 11 billion was released to them. And so also is the personnel. The personnel last year was 408 billion, but only 300 billion was released to them. And when you send somebody out there to fight a war, and you don't pay him his dues, you can understand the frustration. That's why sometimes so many things, unfortunate things happen, very embarrassing things. But then the problem, the main problem is that Army don't complain. They can't complain. They are not politicians. And that's what I'm doing. I go see what they are doing as chairman of a committee and with my committee members, and then speak out. Because the security is number one. In a budget of 13 trillion, in a period of war, and with archaic equipment and ammunitions, and you are budgeting 27 billion. I mean, this is not it. Yes, there is a budget. The president normally provides 100 billion for Operation Lafia Dole. That amount is in the budget. But they don't release it regularly. And as I told you, if you do a common arithmetic, whereby you have over 30,000 troops in the theater, and each soldier is entitled to a daily allowance of 2,000 naira. You multiply 2,000 naira by 30,000. You see the amount you get there is about 70 million. And if you multiply that per week, then you get the number. Take it to a year. You know that that 100 billion is not a big thing. And let me say again that even the poor countries around us, the total budget of the Nigerian Armed Forces, if you convert it into dollars by my calculation, is about $1.3 billion. In an army, with our number, the number is another thing. We have less than 150,000 armed forces on ground, including the soldiers. They are not up to 200,000. And then you have this vast land of the country. So if we want to end this war quickly, we must equip the Nigerian Army. We must equip the Nigerian Air Force. We must equip the Nigerian Navy. As it is now, they are scavenging around, trying to bring back some of the equipments that they bought. And because there was relative peace, they were not used, they are not serviceable. And in their desperateness, the Chief of Army Staff recently involved the Deacon to start producing their own MRAP. And, this is a locally made something because it did not go through test of time and all that. It doesn't add up. You find soldiers on the field rationing ammunition. And the insurgents come with letters. As I said it before, they seized AK-49 from some of the bandits and insurgents, while our soldiers are still battling with, AK-47. And some of them even are old, and because they have been prepared for long. So we need to say it as it is. We need to equip, we need to provide what the Nigerian Army wants.
Right.
Then give them a timeline.
All right.
And then say, if you don't get this to the end by so period, then you take whatever measures. Then commit to police too. We don't have the number of the police. If to say we have enough police, drafting the army into the NSAS wouldn't even come up. I was expecting that, first of all, mobile police or anti-protest police would be the first to be drafted, use water cannons, use tear gas, before you end up using maybe at most rubber bullets. That is what is being done. But if you go, the Nigerian police too don't have these things on ground. So it is very important for us to stand up and address the security challenge. If there is no security, there will be no law and there will be no order. And if there will be no law and order, that means there will be no peace. If there is no peace, it means everybody will not sleep well. That is what is happening now. If you think that we are at the top there, you take care of yourself, and most of us, ask for police protection and all that, it will not help. We have seen it.
All right.
It will not help. What will help is to carry the people, especially the masses, the youths, to understand, yes, things are bad. But if you say things are bad and it's okay or it's good with you, then people will get angry, especially when they are the people that elected you to that position anyway.
Senator Ali Ndume, Chairman of Senate Committee on the Army, I sincerely appreciate your time tonight on the program and some of the thoughts that you have shared. Thank you so much indeed for coming.